Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crash Command Games. Thanks for checking in on us on the most irritating or exciting of days for you. This is the banned and restricted announcement. Some of us really like today. Some of us really hate today. Me being on the hate camp, but that is because I am on team let them fight, let them cook, let them play. But it appears the louder voices have won this time. They don't always win, but they won this time. And we're going to talk about the banned and restricted announcement. Other than that, we want to talk a little bit. I'm a small content creator, but I do have hopes of someday getting a spoiler card. We're also going to talk about those spoilers just briefly at the very beginning here. We are briefly going to look at James White's opinion and everyone else's opinion who's got a brain. Because yes, spoilers are coming. That does not mean they are for you to give out. They're usually assigned and handed out to different content creators to sit there and spend their time and effort and energy on that they could be using on another video or another topic. But because they're given these spoilers, they now are going to work on that project. And you, as so well put, some quit. I don't even care what time it is. Some stole some product and decided to pull everything out from those content creators. Can't even say anything. You're a pile. Those guys worked really hard on the content. I know it may not be like crazy content, but they worked on it. And you took it from them. Nobody likes you. Nobody likes the spoilers that were like 2 seconds early. They were coming anyway. You suck. We're just going to end it right there. This is enough. I'm sure there's other comments on this. And I don't have Twitter, so we're not going to even get to really get into it and see what people think about this. But with that, ooh, look what I was looking for. We're going to get into the scheduled banned and restricted announcement here for September 2nd officially. It is September 1st where I'm at, but September 2nd. Yeah, let's get into Classic Constructed. The following changes from Classic Constructed are effective Monday, September 1st. Bonds of Agony is banned.
Objection!
A few members of my Discord and I were talking about what's really going to get banned. Take Up the Mantle was number one on everyone's radar. Not just in my Discord, but a few other that I'm a part of, as well as the local scene. Everybody was talking about Take Up the Mantle, and realistically, the argument, I guess, would be it has a lot of design space restrictions because it can do so much. In reality, as I let my locals and a few people that I was talking to know, it is not Take Up the Mantle that is the problem. It is the one card that nobody likes seeing Take Up the Mantle target. That is the problem. And it's the only card like it in the entire Assassin game space, and that's Bonds of Agony. I personally think it's not that hard to play around this. We're going to go over the reasoning when we go over their reasoning as well. Golden Tipple Red, Golden Tipple Yellow, they are banned.
Oh my god, bro.
Oh, hell no, man. What the...
But, let's just get through the ban picks, because, I can respond to their rationale later. Plume of Evergrowth is banned. Talk a Big Game is banned. And Germinate is banned.
Objection!
Given the high quality of the games and statistically strong balance of the current Classic Constructed format, this change to the BNR may come as a shock. And it does. Because people like me who are sitting in there really looking at the data and really watching the callings and games don't see a need for any of this. There's a few that I can't know about, but I don't see a need for any of this. But they employ bans for a multitude of reasons. You can read over I'm not going to give over their reasons. But basically, I'm going to paraphrase what they say there. They say, we don't have to stick to the same rules we always have. We're not going to punish our devs as a brand of your poor quality in game design. Now we're more focused on the players. Which players? It's not all of them. It's just the loudest of them. You're going to have a lot of people arguing that this is better for the game, and it's better for the game on a casual level. What is Flesh and Blood? The new competitive card game. Okay. I know that it has to grow. It's a business. They have to grow. They have to get bigger. The casual level has to be more accessible. I can't argue those points. But I'm here for the spirit and the core of the game. Those may be changing. I may need to change as well with it. So let's go ahead and look at Bonds of Agony. It was intended to reward assassins for taking on the somewhat challenging quest of deploying multiple attack reactions to the same chain link, and in turn, give the opponent a difficult decision of whether or not to block or do something, right? Their reason here is that defending decisions around Bonds of Agony when Arachne slip through the cracks starts the turn with it is basically full block or lose some of the best cards in my hand. Okay? And then with Take Up the Mantle in the mix, the decision is theoretically faced on the vast majority of turns of the game. And I want to highlight a word here. It simply feels unfair. I just beat the shit out of a Slip Through the Cracks this last Armory. I just had the shit kicked out of me by Slip Through the Cracks this last Armory. That is the case every week. It is beatable. It's not like this mythical thing that you can't work around. I was tracking what was being pitched, if a Take Up the Mantle had been pitched. I was tracking if they had blocked or attacked with Bonds of Agony, so I could be as aggressive as I needed to be. And as soon as I saw the opportunity of, I've already got them to two or three cards in hand, and I know there's a Bonds of Agony in there, and they can only do so much with that, apply pressure. Learning the game is harder than asking for a ban. And I think, what do we say here? Pair this with Slippy's win rate that sits just below the problematic threshold, and the fact that the Assassin card pool, like all card pools, will continue to add more powerful options as time goes on. It will therefore more profitably and reliably find the 3 reactions to trigger bonds. It has become clear that time to slightly scale down the Assassin's power level. That it is time to. I don't know what to say about that. They designed Bonds in a set that they also designed the Mystic Assassin, where they had access to, I don't even remember what they're called, and New is right over there on the shelf. Her boots and her gloves and her mask, right? That was when it was easiest to get off. But even without the Mystical Assassin equipment, you still have the Assassin equipment, which are all reactions. I don't think it needed to be banned. It has hit me. I have hit with it. I've been on both sides of the coin. Their last line explains it. As is true of every banned card on this list, the goal here is not to destroy the win rate, but time has come to mitigate the damned if you do, damned if you don't play experience. And I don't quite feel that. You sometimes just have to be tracking your opponent's pitch and understanding what risks they're willing to take at what stage of the game. There are stages of the game that become terminal, where you know it's going to happen. He could make it happen right now. And he's gonna. But, it just doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good because, actually, in Discord, we were just talking about a couple where the partner, may not be a player, maybe a player, just bought their significant other some Bonds of Agonies for their deck because they heard them talking about it. And it was for their birthday, and the next day, this happens. There's more than one kind of feels bad in this world, and that's from a player and a collector's perspective, and it goes out beyond the game as well. There's some people who just pick this deck up and don't pay attention to the BNR as often, or are new and don't know to. It's this specific card. I don't even know how much it was. Let's find out. Obviously, it's going to tank a little bit. Maximum was $25, right? People spent a lot of money, and in my build-outs, my deck build-outs, for which the next one is going to be Ira, okay? I go through price points of $100, $200, $300, all the way up to like $600, okay? $75 was a significant chunk of this. Somebody just spent a lot of their time and effort. Not just one person. That's one anecdote. It had to have happened across the board. This is a worldwide game at this point. So it just feels really bad. Let's get on to Golden Tipple, Red and Yellow. We were discussing seriously. They really asked me to sit there and think about it, about what I thought was actually going to get banned. And again, everybody was on the Saltwater Swell train. As I pointed out in my previous video, responding to everybody's requests for the bans, no, that card requires a little bit of luck, a little bit of nuance, and some pitch stack rewarding is in there. It's a good card. It's a good card, but it's not bannable card. The target, in my opinion, and I just said this a few days ago, was going to be Golden Tipple Yellow. I understand Golden Tipple Yellow. I don't like it. I understand Golden Tipple Yellow. I don't understand red. Okay? Red takes away red and yellow takes away way too much from the Gravy Bones plan. It's insane to think that yes, some of the best players in the world can take advantage of that much gold and can set up their deck to do so. And I have done so. I'm not one of the best players in the world. I'm not saying that. I'm saying I have done so to where I knew what was coming up based on some signposts I pitched and knew to start cracking gold. Yes, that's possible. But that requires skill. The vast majority, and I'll stop myself there to read this next part. In my 30 years of TCGs, I struggle to find an analog to the Gravy Bones experience. When we are analyzing whether a deck is warping balance or performing at a statistically unacceptable rate, we are necessarily driven by data. If win rates tell us the deck is too strong, we've got to respect the evidence. Do you? But what happens when almost everyone is positive the deck is good, too good, but the data tells a different story? Doesn't sound like you're about to respect the data. I've seen the gamut. I've watched Gravy Bones after Gravy Bones fall apart to this meta. 30% top 8 or day 2 conversion is good. It is. Half the field playing the deck is an indicator of something. But what is that? Is it that it's the cool new hero? Is it that he's fun to play? It's a unique play experience? I agree with these things. Gravy Bones is cool as f***. Got a really good gameplay mechanic. His game style drives to the end of a game, not fatigue. That's exciting to people. Very cool deck. Good art. Really good vibes across the board. Really good matchups, really bad matchups. But the data is showing he cannot convert that well. Even when he's like half of the field, he doesn't convert that well. And even less convert further into the top 8. The really, really good Gravy players can. So what's the problem here? That good players are good? I don't know. Well, that's Gravy Bones, a deck with an entirely pedestrian win rate that many folks believe is the best deck in the format. Believe, feel. And perhaps one of the most powerful flesh and blood decks we've ever seen. And frankly, I have to agree with them. I don't entirely agree with this. I don't. I don't entirely agree with this. Brian Gottlieb does. We disagree a lot, but I'm not the designer and I'm not in charge. It's a very good deck. It has a lot of fun elements to it, and it's very attractive to many people. And it needed a tuning. As against bans as I am objective. I understand that the deck needed a slight tuning because at those higher echelons of play, it was a bit too much. I suggested Portside Exchange in my video prior to someone else's. Yellow Tipple, I understood. I wanted Portside Exchange because it takes out some of the blue energy that the Saltwater Swells can hit. It takes out some of the blue power that the deck requires to fuel that deck. And just that little sprinkling of gold and draw. And there was only 3 of. And many other decks didn't utilize it. That was a very targeted play. But to take out yellow and red... Okay, we'll back up. I again agree with Yellow Tipple. It did that little pinch too much. Gold generation, draw, it's a mid-range attack, and it's a yellow to be discarded to things that prefer yellow discards. That's a little too much. Okay? I understand yellow. Red, though... absurd. It's absurd to take both of those out. Now, not only do I have a harder time against things like Swabby or the Mirror, not only do I have a harder time putting a little further pressure on things like Prism, who I already have a bad match against, but now I have even less of those small go-again to try to get rid of the wards and the Angels. It made that match so much worse. I don't even know if we considered that. I don't know if they talk about that. But man, that red one needed to not happen. And we're not going to get to fix it until later. We'll find out. We'll find out. Gravy Bones may be having his win rate altered by the fact that he's fiendishly difficult to play, but watch what the deck can do in the hands of a Pro Tour top 8 competitor like Michael Hamilton, Arthur Trehat, Enki Dupequire, and Shirai Wu, right? It's hard to argue against the fact that necromancy is the best thing you can be doing in Flesh and Blood today, and in the hands of masters, bad matchups tend to dissipate very quickly. Again, why I would have understood a slight tuning. This is like a bat to one of his arms, you know? You just crippled one of his arms. It's so rough. We're not going to go over all of this. Let's see. The starting point here will be to ban Golden Tipple Red and Yellow, but that may not be the end for Gravy Bones adjustments. A huge benefit to Living Legend point changes is the time granted to shape the meta. Okay, I forgot about that part. I had read this earlier, but I forgot about that part. I appreciate that they're trying to push back the amount of time that you can play with the deck, but now they're pushing back the time even further. And there can be this different kind of problem with this, where you end up with a deck that's really dominant, and then they do this slight tweak, and it remains dominant, and then they slight tweak, and it remains dominant, and then you just end up with the forever meta. I already argued to just let Living Legends Living Legend, and try to pay a little bit more attention so the Aurora situation doesn't happen again. That go again on the Serenade, no, it's too, that was a mistake, I get it, but you just let that one go. So why not let this one go? Whatever. We're past this right here. Plume of Evergrowth, I think, has another design problem, not with the helmet, but with that new Earth Wizard card. I don't remember the name of it right now, but it has 6 arcane power on it. I understand that's probably what this is for, but just take the block off of that and make it an instant, so they don't get the 9 value out of it, so they don't get the full value of, I get to block with this early and save it for later as an option. It didn't need to have 3 block. What is Burn Bear? Guess that also 3 blocked though. I guess they were getting too many of those options. I don't have a lot of arguments against Plume of Evergrowth. Earth has this recurring problem of where the game of Flesh and Blood does not like recursion in this way, but Earth keeps doing it. I'm not as mad about this one. I kind of get this one. This just makes Rampant Growth the harder option. A 4 to 5 at the end of the game with some amp is still quite effective. And I don't think Verdance even needed this, but this must be for some future things we can't see yet. Anything like that in these banned and restricteds where I can't tell, I can't be mad at. So, Talk a Big Game, before I read that, I have seen Take a Big Game swing whole games before, but in such seldom quantity that I can't possibly think this was necessary. I don't know what's in Super Slam. We're about to all buy tickets to the arena and figure it out. But Talk a Big Game has swung games and made me lose them because I don't really play those classes that often. So I have felt their problems, but as they note here, sentiment broadly seemed to feel that we waited too long to ban the Zephyr Needle, even though a sanctioned classic constructed game with Ira had never been played. They're being a little more proactive with this, which means I can't tell what they did this for. I can't be mad. It's a card that I can't imagine will be super missed, as Guardian players, from the most part, I don't see them often playing this card. It's not even in like a quarter of the list that I've played against. It's probably a design choice. Germinate. Took out Bonds. Took out one of the hardest hitters to Florian. And then unbanned Germinate for Florian. What are we doing? You've just made the game even harder for Guardians. You've just made the game harder for Assassin. Which is fine, I guess. But Florian... I guess Florian fell off, but that's because people didn't want to adapt their decks. Or couldn't. I don't know which one. I'm not a Florian player. I know that my local Florian players abandoned the deck upon this ban. And it's... I swear they're... If I had all the time in the world, which I kind of do nowadays until I go back to work from the surgery, I probably could have found something to answer the meta. But in doing that, you change the triangle. You go from being a setup deck, maybe to an aggro deck, maybe to a control deck. I'm not sure which. There's that triangle at all times. You'd have to figure out how to work the beatdown. But I never got around to that, so I can't talk too much onto Germinate. they're returning support to try to see if he can come back as a competitive pick, which I think he was probably B tier anyway. Blitz, I don't care about Blitz that often, but Talk a Big Game is banned. For the same reason that it was banned. It swings games really hard, and in Blitz it hurts even more. This is fucking crazy. RuneGate Chain just went off. Early returns on our first effort to bring Chain back to the rest of the Living Legend field look promising, with Deadwood Dirge restrictions offering noteworthy splash damage to Viscerai. We are motivated and willing to attempt to return the Dirge to the card pool. That's crazy. That's crazy. Wild time to be doing it when we know that the next big tournaments are going to be incorporating Living Legend into their endgame formats, even Worlds. So that just got crazy. I can't wait to see it. I love Chain. I only played him on off times when the partner wasn't playing them or when they didn't show up, and I'd be like, give me that Chain deck. I love Chain. Chain was sweet. Leviah was my hero for that era. Can't wait to see or test what that's going to be about. I need to start playing more about that. We're going to look at another ban November 3rd, 2025. Another ban and restricted announcement, not quite a ban. I heavily disagree with Red Tipple and Bonds. The other ones seem to be future design choices. I can't argue those. If this affected you, let me know in the comments. If you really, really, really thought that these were deserved, join in a free member on that Patreon and start putting some chat in there. Get into the Discord and start telling us why. I need to know why. I need to know why people have this huge aversion. I know we all have full-time jobs. We have time that we cannot dedicate to learn the game. Why is it so hard to just try to figure out a meta as opposed to just screaming for bans and then causing this chain wave of screaming for bans? It's like that. Okay. What does this mean? Assassins are going to be weaker. That's fine. They were pretty strong. But weakening assassins increases the power of even faster decks. Syndra is probably needed some help. Fi is going to see some help. Some of the ninjas can feel a little bit less pressured. Florian for sure. Verdance for sure. This is going to raise the tide on a lot of heroes. It will be more enjoyable for more people over the long run. Golden Tipple, red and yellow did not need to happen. All you did was hurt the pirate heroes. Yellow may have needed to happen. I would have preferred Portside Exchange. I think that would have been a more fair trade. I'm gonna find out. Gravy Bones is my current hero. I'm gonna have to find out and test out and see what it's like. And I'll let you know as soon as I know. I'm gonna get some games on the books with it and see how it feels. Thanks for tuning in. This one's going to be the Chains of Eminence episode. We're told what we're allowed to play and what we're not allowed to play. It's fine. It's fine. Those were my thoughts. Again, thanks for chipping in. This one is zeroed.